Welcome to the People's Choice Awards. This was David DiPaolo's vision, a 60-minute session with the industry's top leaders telling their most powerful stories. It's an honor for me to be here to guide you through what I think is fast becoming the most important hour of our year. David understood the power of stories. He knew that they could captivate us, they could move us, they could motivate us. And I wanted to understand what it is about stories that do this. How do words change the mental states of the listeners? So it just so happens that I have a degree in human physiology and biophysics. And so today, 20 years after my graduation, I'm going to get to use that degree. This is the first time in my professional career that I'm going to be a physiologist. All right, so I got my lab coat. This is my father-in-law's lab coat. I figure it's Halloween. All right, so here it goes. Stories create a powerful cocktail of neuroactive hormones in the listener's minds. So how do you create these things? This concoction is so powerful that it's called the angel's cocktail. So what goes in? First part, dopamine. It goes like this. It was May of 1996. I'm sitting in a large conference room, ready for a midterm examination in a neurobiology class, and Dr. Susan Mulroney, she's outlining the hormones that are going to be part of this exam, and she says, dopamine is attributed with laser focus, paying attention, increasing your ability to listen. She said, this is the most critical attributes you could have in a listener. So how do you create a rise in dopamine in your audience? She says, it's one very simple thing. And right at that moment, the desk phone rings. And she picks it up, and she says, wait, I'm teaching right now. I can't leave the students. We're in the middle of an exam review. No, all right, wait right there. I'll be right there. And she puts the phone down and walks right out of the classroom. What was the one thing? How do you do this, Dr. Mulroney? What is it? 30 seconds, 60 seconds pass. The frenzy of a classroom going on. 120 seconds later, right over the railing on the balcony of the longer auditorium at Georgetown, she leans over and she says, the number one thing you have to do to create dopamine is create suspense. So the first part of the angel's cocktail is dopamine, and it's created by suspense in a story. So what's the next component? The angel's cocktail has a second component, and it's made up of a beautiful hormone. It's called oxytocin. Now, this is a hormone that creates empathy and care and compassion and a connectedness with the storyteller. I learned about this hormone firsthand. About 11 years ago, my wife, Cassandra, was expecting our third child. And at about 13 weeks, she was suffering horrendously from gallstones. We didn't know what they were, but we went, and the surgeon said, you're going to have abdominal surgery during this trimester. But we're going to have to get you to 17 weeks because it's too dangerous for the baby. So, I remember it like it was yesterday. I packed up the other two kids. We went and we got in the car. It was September 9th, 2006. We took her to Lutheran General Hospital. They said it's going to take a little while to get her prepped for surgery. They said, why don't you take the other kids, go get something to eat. So we drove down the road to World Buffet. I don't quite remember what it is we ate. It was a very emotional time. We drove back to the hospital, and there was a little parking garage on the side of the hospital where I wanted to park. And it cost $2, and I had a $5 bill. So I handed the $5 bill up to the attendant, and he saw me. My eyes were welling up. It was a very emotional time. And he did the most wonderful thing. He took out this roll of those $1 gold coins, and he took out 3 of them. And he put them in my outstretched hand on the side of the car, and he put all 3 coins, and he said, 3 coins. 2 coins for each of the kids that are in the back seat, and 1 more coin for the child I know that you've got in the hospital. And I shook his hand, and thanks to the good work of the surgeons there, everything came out right, and then 22 weeks later, our youngest daughter was born. But I keep those coins. They mean the world to me, and that little feeling up through here is oxytocin. It's that kind of compassion that's in a story. And the last part, like any great cocktail, you need a little twist. You need a little dash of something. And we call that comic relief. You need levity. You need laughter. You need a little bit of lightness. So you enter endorphins. So a few years ago, my son, he's about all of 8, he tells me, Dad, I want to be a parent. And I'm like, all right, not bad. Wants to be like the old man. And I said, when do you want to be a parent, Andrew? And he says, on Saturday. I said, okay, talk to your mother. How are you going to be a parent? And he said, well, I have noticed that when we go to Ainsley's soccer games, all the parents seem to line up on the side, and they have their coffee, and they hold it just like this. And they walk around, and they talk to each other, and every moment or so, somebody says, pass the ball, Ava, kick it, Mackenzie. So he wanted to be a parent and have his coffee cup. So the following Saturday, I said, all right, that's great. This is going to be your parent day, Andrew. We go to McDonald's, and we get him his hot chocolate, and it's like his old man, got to get a couple breakfast sandwiches, so we put them in the little bag. So now he's got his hat, his gloves, his parent cup, his McGriddles. We get in the car. We arrive at the field. This is his big day. He's going to be a big parent now. He can't get out of the car. He's got so many things, and he's trying to kick my door open, and all of a sudden, I walk around the side. I open the door, and he comes bumbling out, and he says, whew, being a parent is tough. I said, yes, Andrew, you are right. And that little lightness, that little smile, that little sweetness, that's endorphin. And that's the last part of the angel's cocktail. So dopamine, oxytocin, endorphins, start your engines. We are the stories we tell, so let's use them for a power for good. This afternoon, we're going to bring you 7 stories from 7 powerful storytellers. I'm going to introduce each one of them, and then I'm going to place their story into an overall framework for the afternoon. And when we're done, these 7 stories are going to coalesce, and they're going to form a framework of a way to think about well-being. What better way to honor David's vision than to send you back home with a new appreciation of how stories work, a new framework, a conceptual framework for wellness, and 7 stories to kickstart your journey to well-being. So let's get started. Remember, you're going to listen to all 7 stories, and then at the end, you're going to text to vote about the winner. All right, so here's the way we're going to do it. The Gallup organization has completed an in-depth survey from people from more than 150 countries around the world, trying to identify what are the elements of wellness, well-being, happiness around the world. And they've identified 5 significant pillars. And the first one is career well-being. So I'm going to ask you this rhetorical question. Think about this as we go through the next 2 presentations. Do you like what you do every day? Do you like where you work? According to the authors, with thriving career well-being, you will have something to look forward to every day and twice the odds of thriving in your life overall. So our first story hits on that. It's called Failing Forward. And in an individual's life is a journey. It's filled with ups and downs. And on our opening session, we're proud to introduce Tammy Boyd, who will explain the only appropriate response to life's twists and turns. Now, Tammy's a vice president of business development and marketing for Neuro International, the largest privately owned provider of neurorehabilitation, neurobehavioral, complex care, and long-term supported living services. Tammy manages the company's business development and marketing efforts. She serves on the University of South Florida's MBA Digital Marketing Advisory Board. Tammy obtained her bachelor's degree in organizational communication from the University of Utah. Here now is Tammy Boyd's People Choice presentation, Failing Forward.
Thank you, Greg. Good afternoon, everyone. Why is it that when we have success, we share it? We're exuberant about it. But when we fail and make mistakes, we don't talk about it. We're ashamed. We're embarrassed. We don't want to look incompetent in front of our peers. But aren't our mistakes and our failures our biggest opportunities towards success? What if I told you these 5 iconic names have all failed? Would you believe me? Thomas Edison, Henry Ford, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, and J.K. Rowling. All failures, right? Let me explain. Thomas Edison, one of America's most important inventors, and best known for inventing the light bulb, as a young child, was told by his teachers that he was too stupid to learn. And as an adult, when he was working, he was fired from his jobs for being unproductive. It took him 1,000 attempts before successfully inventing the light bulb. How many of us would be discouraged at 100 or even 500 times trying to invent something? He said, I didn't fail 1,000 times, but the invention of the light bulb was a 1,000-step process. He said, one of our greatest weaknesses, we tend to give up too quickly. And our greatest successes is in trying just one more time. Edison had perseverance. Henry Ford, founder of the Ford Motor Company, had a passion for the motorized engine. He wasn't the first to invent the automobile or the assembly line, but he had a vision and thought differently than everybody else. His vision was to mass produce the automobile to where middle-class America could afford to purchase it. It took Ford many failures and countless years before inventing the most productive, producing the best automobile of its time, the Model T. Ford also said that when everything seems to be against you, that the airplane takes off against the wind and not with it. Steve Jobs and Bill Gates, most iconic names of our technological era. Apple, Microsoft, global brands ranked number 3 and 28, respectively, in Fortune 500 list. Jobs and Gates have similarities. They both dropped out of college. They both started businesses from their garages. And both, during their tenures, have experienced failure many times. Steve Jobs was the poster child of turning failure into success. He quit school, started a business, got fired from his own company, only to be invited back when revenue began to drop. He said that death was his biggest motivation to never fear failure. Bill Gates is the richest man on the face of the planet with a $90 billion net worth. He started his business in high school. It failed. And during his tenure at Microsoft, he's had many setbacks. In 1993, he invented a data platform that he thought would revolutionize the industry. It failed. In 2003, he started a TV internet show. It flopped. He said it's okay to be exuberant about success, but more importantly, to heed the lessons of failure. J.K. Rowling always had a passion for learning, or had a passion for writing, even as a small child. Her parents discouraged her from writing, said it wouldn't pay the bills. Even book publishers said there was no money in book writing, children's book writing. During her darkest moments before she had her success, she went through a horrible divorce. She was clinically depressed, and she even self-described herself as being the biggest failure she's known. As everyone knows, she has the most successful book series in history. Her books have sold over 400 million copies worldwide. She's the first female billionaire author. She's the first billionaire author. So what have we learned from our success, from failure? That perseverance, thinking differently, learning from our mistakes, and holding on to our passion can lead to toward our biggest successes, that adversity is inevitable, that failure is not fatal. So it is my hope that we continue toward our path of success by failing forward. Thank you.
We're pleased to introduce to the stage Jeannette Ward with her story of a corporation's soul. Now, Jeannette joined Texas Mutual in 1993 after earning her Bachelor of Arts degree from the University of Texas at Austin. She served as Senior Manager of Corporate Planning, Budget and Accounting, been Vice President of Claim and Information Services, Vice President of Medical Operations. She's currently serving in the state as head of the statewide operations, their network, safety services, marketing, customer engagement, and the call center operations. So it's safe to say Texas Mutual is on pause right now. Please welcome Jeannette Ward with her own story of Houston Strong.
Thank you. So I'm Jeannette Ward, Senior Vice President of Policyholder Services at Texas Mutual. I've worked there for 24 years this month, and you might ask if I like my job. 24 years is a long time. We're talking about career well-being. And the answer is no, I don't like my job. I love my job. And the reason I love my job is because Texas Mutual always does the right thing. Our employees believe in our mission to serve our policyholders and to help injured workers. And when the communities we serve need help, Texas Mutual steps up and we help. And that's exactly what we did with Hurricane Harvey when it came ashore back in September. So as soon as we knew the devastation of the storm and the subsequent flooding, our president, Richard Gasco, got us all together and talked about what we can do to help. We're located in Austin, that's our corporate office, but we have offices all over the state, including an office in Houston. So first and foremost, our concern was for our employees, their well-being, their safety, their loved ones. So we located everyone. We knew who had damage, we knew who was displaced, and we knew who needed help. First thing we did was we decided just to close the office for the week after the storm. We didn't want employees torn between, should I come to work? We knew there was a lot of chaos in the streets in Houston, so we just wanted to keep everyone at home focusing on their recovery. That meant the work had to get done still. We had some new claims coming in. We had to underwrite policies. So the employees in the other offices stepped up. They, without hesitation, took over the work, and the world went on. The next week, whenever the office was opened up again, a fellow executive and I went down to Houston. We had $1,000 Visa gift cards for all the affected employees. We had a care package, just necessities because people were displaced from their homes. And I even drove one of our extra pool cars down because one of our employees lost his truck in the flood, and it was going to be a while before he was able to get a new vehicle. That same employee, it was kind of a funny story, had evacuated so fast that he only left with his hiking boots on. And he was lamenting that he wished he had a different pair of shoes to wear. No big deal, except he wears size 17 shoes. Apparently you cannot buy size 17 shoes at any store. So there's a specialty shoe store in Austin. I went down there and bought these giant flip-flops for him and drove him down the next day. The look on his face when I handed him the keys in this giant shoebox was priceless. And I got to tell you, listening to his story, listening to the story of every employee that was impacted, their evacuations, all that happened to him, it was a really humbling experience, awe-inspiring. I'll never forget it. I'll never forget the look on their face when we handed them gift cards, hearing over and over again them saying, wow, I can't believe I work for a company that cares. This is really great. I'll never forget the one adjuster who, when she looked in her care box and realized we had put toys in there, she broke down crying because we were thoughtful enough to know that she was taking care of a grandchild and they had lost everything. I'll never forget the compassion and the willingness to help. All the employees in Houston band together and they would go to different houses and help people clean out. And employees from other regions came as well and helped. And those that couldn't, we had a gift card program. And so they were able to donate gift cards to help. We're a company of 1,000 employees spread out all over the state of Texas. But in that moment, we felt like a family. And it was great to be a part of that, even in the face of a tragedy. So next, we turned our attention to our policyholders. We're a mutual company owned by our policyholders, and we knew we had to help. So our president recommended and our board of directors approved a Hurricane Harvey disaster relief grant in the amount of $10 million for our policyholders to get them back to work as quickly as possible. They could use it to pay for payroll maybe that they weren't able to make while they were closed, any damage to their buildings or offices, just whatever they needed to get back on their feet as quickly as possible. And it turned out to be a great success. I got to be the executive lead on that program as well. This was 2 Thursdays after the storm. We knew we were about to get board approval. I assembled a team with IT, call center, marketing people, and I said, so can we get an online grant application with an approval process and a payment process all controlled, rules to follow? And they were enthusiastic and decided and said, yeah, we can do this. And they were even still enthusiastic when I asked if they could do it in less than a week. They did it. We were writing our first Harvey grant relief checks a week later to policyholders, and I was very proud of the team. So at Texas Mutual, we have a saying that we want to help build a safer, stronger Texas. And I believe our efforts around Hurricane Harvey proved that we're true to that mission, we're true to that goal. We gave out grants up to $10,000 to almost 1,100 policyholders. We actually went over our allocation of $10 million, and the board approved a little bit more. So right now we've given out $10.5 million. So do I like what I do? Yes, I love what I do. I get to walk into a building every day filled with people who are always counted on to do the right thing, and that's a really good feeling. But I want to end with just reading one little note from a policyholder. Thank you so very much. It's wonderful being a customer with a company who cares. I've always admired how you award us for safety through your dividends. Feels good to know that you're working for the people. And I can tell you it does feel good to work for a company that really cares. Thank you for your time.
So we're going to move to the second pillar, financial well-being. So do you think that money buys happiness? What's the impact of financial security in your life? So financial security has much more influence in your overall well-being than income alone. Yet we very often spend a lot of our day looking at buckets, expense buckets, medical, cost, reserve, weekly wage. But can we view compensation through a slightly different lens? We welcome Marcus Torbert to the stage to find out. Marcus is the Chief Executive Officer at Ametros Financial, Inc. This is a leading professional administration company that provides products and services to help injured workers manage and save money in their post-settlement funds. Ametros provides services that help injured workers navigate healthcare and compliance, particularly in the area of Medicare set-asides and in non-Medicare funds. Marcus has worked on Wall Street as an investor, as an advisor, and as a strategist. He's been an investment banker in New York, where he worked on mergers and acquisitions and has advised boards of directors. He, in fact, serves as on the board of director at Merrimack College in his beloved Cleveland, Ohio. He has a BA in economics from Columbia University and an MBA from Harvard Business School. We are proud to call Marcus to the stage for his story of humanity in workers' compensation.
All right. Thanks, Greg. Appreciate it. So, I'm going to take us back to the early 1900s for a second, where the grand bargain really began. As many of you know, it is the foundation of our workers' compensation system. And the bargain was ultimately meant to create or provide limited but reasonably protected benefits for injured workers in exchange for immunity from tort liability for employers, right? And what was so great about this bargain was that ultimately all of the stakeholders were supposed to benefit and gain. Employers would ultimately gain the ability to have a predictability on a fully insured claim with immunity from the tort liability system. Insurance carriers were going to gain because they now would have access to an entire market where they could make profits, so not bad for them either. And lastly, injured workers would ultimately gain because they would have guaranteed lifetime benefits without realizing who was at fault. So when you look at this system, it was really meant to be a win-win for all parties. However, what's ultimately intrigued me over the past few years is that the discussion around workers' compensation has largely been a discussion around the economic incentives in the adequacy of benefits for injured workers. And because of this focus we have on the financial outcome and economics of workers' compensation, we've kind of created a system of distrust that we have here, right? And so while we talk a lot about economic adequacy, what we don't spend a lot of time talking about is the humanistic aspect of the system. And that brings me to Javier. So, Javier was an injured worker that settled his case a year ago. And for those of you, I'm sure Greg gave a little intro, is that Amitros helps injured workers manage their health care needs once they've chosen to settle the medical portion of their workers' compensation case. And in many situations, it's the continuation of the same care they were receiving prior to the case settling, with a little bit of added freedom and less restrictions that are involved in the system. So Javier was very, very excited about settling his case, moving on to his new life where he could treat the way that he wanted with some added support and advocacy along the way. So a little bit of background on Javier. He had no family. He was completely alone at home. He lived in one of the roughest neighborhoods in Chicago, and his injury had changed his life forever. And to make matters worse, several weeks after he settled his case, he was robbed. People had found out that he'd received a sizable settlement and naturally assumed that he would have cash and other valuables laying around. So they broke into his home, they stole his medical scooters, cash, other valuables, things that Javier needed now really more than ever, right? A couple of weeks after this incident, Javier was scheduled to have a surgery, a procedure that he'd been wanting to have for some time now, right? Luckily, the surgery went extremely well and Javier recovered. But what happened next was something that should not have surprised me, but indeed nonetheless. I received a call from Javier, and calmly on the other end of the phone, he was requesting that we send flowers to the hospital. So flowers, huh, I thought. And it turned out that Javier was alone, he had no family, and so he saw that everyone else in the hospital had flowers, and he would like some as well. Makes sense, right? Well, kind of. The first response was, we're definitely not a florist, and we're not a flower delivery company, so I'm not sure where this relationship is going to go in the long run. And secondly, Medicare set-asides definitely don't cover flowers, right? So we're in a little bit of a quagmire here. But nonetheless, flowers were sent to Javier. He was able to receive them, didn't have to pay for them. It was sort of a gesture given some of the things that he'd gone through recently in his life. And words cannot do justice to the phone call that was received several days later from Javier. The excitement, enthusiasm, and happiness on the other end of the phone. And what we realized was that what seemingly was a very small gesture, nonchalantly giving someone flowers from a company's perspective, had been a profound, life-changing experience for Javier. We made him feel appreciated. We made him feel respected. We made him feel valuable. But most importantly, we made him feel human, right? And you can imagine now the collaboration that came from that interaction with Javier, and something that really evolved out of us not trying to do it at all. We noticed that he was collaborative in his own healthcare. He communicated better, and he was really, really intent on getting well and getting better because of the relationship we developed. So what that means for others, right? We thought. We started looking at other injured workers that we'd work with and thought, what are some of the benefits of this humanistic approach that we discovered that we're taking with these folks? And the first was very apparent, it should be easy for all of us, is that it was the right thing to do. It was the right thing to do for someone who'd encountered and experienced an unimaginable outcome in their lives. And it's the right thing to do for folks that we share a very, very sincere common bond with in this world, and that's humanity. The second thing that became very, very apparent is that there were financial implications out of it. Naturally, because Javier was happier, there had been less distrust, less friction, less of him not wanting to really work on himself, and more proactiveness about how can he get better, about making sure he could become a happier, healthier, and more productive person. And those were all great things that came out of this. So a pilot has started to emerge. We started sending flowers to a subset of every person who joined the program, everyone who had a complicated surgery or procedure, every person who may have lost a home from a natural disaster, the kind that we're seeing here today, to really build that bridge and that connectivity with our injured workers. And for any of you who read the book Drive by Daniel Pink, he goes into great detail describing the motivation behind individuals and describing what are the drivers behind that motivation. And he really talks about three main drivers of motivation. The first is sort of the carnal biological driver, right? So think survival, think to eat, procreate, caveman style stuff, right, that we all have that's innately in us. The second motivation, however, is really based on external factors, external rewards and punishment, things that lead us to have an economic incentive in things. Think about our work comp system. I don't like a doctor you go to, I will force you into an MPN or a restricted network. I don't like the drugs that you take, I will punish you with drug utilization review, right? However, the third driver that Daniel talks about in a lot more detail and that he thinks we're missing in this world is an intrinsic internal motivator, something that's absent any of those external factors, those external rewards and punishments. Consider someone taking control of their own medical care and their own destiny is really what he's focused on. And what I've come to realize is that something I think we've all already known. The same things that motivate all of us in this room and want us to do better internally are the exact same things that motivate injured workers. The feeling of freedom, the feeling of consideration from others, the feeling of being respected, all the things that make us human. So, I look at everyone here today and I say, what can we do to help evolve the grand bargain? And yes, without a doubt, there are some serious economic incentives that we all must consider. But what's missing? What's missing where we can do better? We can do better to have a better outcome for everyone involved. And so the next time, hopefully, that we have an injured worker that calls us who's frustrated and having a bad day, an injured worker who had a complication in their surgery or procedure, an injured worker that lost their home, loved ones in a natural disaster, consider sending them flowers or a nice note. Consider making them feel human again in this very economically motivated and complex system that we call workers' comp. And you might just get a better outcome and a better result as well. Thank you.
We're going to shift to the third of the pillars, community well-being. Do you take pride in your community? The positive outcomes of a thriving community well-being might just be the difference between having a good life and a great one. Now, our community is expanding every day. We are more and more aware of the struggles that are right here at home and around the world. Yet knowing how to help or where to help is sometimes a daunting exercise. We turn to Diane Cohen with her story of getting started. Diane is a vice president of client relations for MacroPro. This is a document retrieval company where she's been employed for over 20 years. She is the founder of the Association of Workers' Compensation Professionals, Women's Workers' Compensation Professionals. She has worked on copy service reform in Sacramento, and she has been the recipient of the Integrity in Workers' Compensation Award, the Standard of Excellence Awards, and has been honored by the City of Sacramento for the charity work that she and her husband have done for the community. Although proud of her many accomplishments in the industry, she told me her life's work, the thing she's most proud of is raising a United States Marine with the love of her life over the last 33 years, her husband David. Here now is Diane Cohen with her story of Thanksgiving.
Today, I want to share with you my family's Thanksgiving tradition. I hope to do this today so that I give those of you in the audience that are looking for something to do in your community somewhat of a roadmap to get there. My family has served free Thanksgiving meals for the last 23 years. We've fed those people who are in need. We're giving a hand up. We have served as many as 1,250 people in 3 hours, and we do this restaurant style, no food line. It has been said that we've served approximately 2,700 meals in that time. People ask me, why do you serve on Thanksgiving Day? You can serve on any other day. Well, Thanksgiving is the day that my husband picked because he thought, as a brainchild of our charity, that Thanksgiving, there should be something more to Thanksgiving than just overeating and watching football. He thought, certainly a family as blessed as ours should use this day of Thanksgiving to help others. When you are thinking about what you can do in the community, think about the following things. What are you passionate about? What is it that you are moved by? Is there a void that you can fill? And never doubt that you can make a difference in somebody else's life. It doesn't have to be a big thing. It could be something small. My mother had very little to give. Before she died, she really had not much. But every Easter, she would dye eggs and she would paint them. Then she'd go to the park on Easter morning and she would hand them out to the homeless. That simple, kind act brought tears to many. We need to start acting like the President of the United States. He's got his own cabinet members. All of us in this room need to have our own cabinet members to help us be successful. One of my cabinet members is here today, Rudy Flores. Cabinet members are people that we know, we trust, we share a vision with, and that will help us with anything that we need. They're not necessarily people that we talk to on a daily basis or that we even see regularly, but they are people that are available to us to help us propel our vision. Our Thanksgiving cabinet, because of these people, we are able to serve 1,250 people on just $6,000. That includes the entertainment on the stage, the face painting for the children, and the music in the air. The other thing we have to make sure is that we are not afraid to make the ask. Now, I remember about 20 years ago, I made a phone call to Steve Bierstock over at Mullen Flippy, and I was asking for a repeat donation next year. I don't remember exactly what I said to Steve, but I will never forget what Steve said to me. He said, "Diane, don't you ever apologize or feel bad about asking when you were serving others." For the rest of my life, those words will resonate with me. I wasn't asking for a donation to go on vacation. I was asking for a donation to take care of our community, the same community that he lived in. We need to make sure, too, that we don't worry about it being enough. Because practice makes perfect. And guess what? Perfection is not required. Because we serve restaurant style, a lot of times the servers get confused on what tables they're supposed to serve. And that would cause a delay. This plagued me for a lot of years, like 13 years. And one night I had a dream, and I said to my husband, I can't believe it, I finally got the answer what to do. In my dream, I saw sections, and in the sections, the tables had different color tablecloths. And all of the servers had matching aprons. Problem solved. Here's the thing, though. Not one of my guests cared that it took a few extra minutes for somebody to figure out if they were going to be served. None of them cared about that. They were just grateful that someone was doing something for them. If there's a problem, a solution will come. But what we need to remember is this. The important thing is that we're doing something for someone else. After doing something for someone else, we need to evaluate our success. So I remember our first year. We had approximately enough food for 300 people. If we served 75 people, that would have been amazing. We were in the wrong location. However, there was a mother there, and she brought in her 7 children, and they were in their Sunday best. And as they sat at the table, the children were mesmerized by the magician on the stage, and they were just eating and eating and eating. And I noticed the mother wasn't eating. So I walked up to her, and I rubbed her back, and I said, "Is everything all right?" As she looked up at me with a tear in her eye, and she said, "My children have never eaten this good, and no one has ever served them." It was right then and there I knew. It was not the number of people we served, but the lives that we touched. If you are looking to do something in your community, don't be afraid of reaching out and trying something new. We don't have to be perfect. We don't even have to know what we're doing. We just have to have enough passion to do it. Thank you.
We're going to stay with the community again. Now, what would happen if we could multiply, exponentially increase our community well-being by working together? We invite Jonathan Mast to the stage to find out how we are better together. Jonathan leads Sedgwick's social media and digital strategy, and he and his team have launched industry-recognized blogs. He's been a leader in using video content and sharing and using the emerging channels for messaging and able to lift Sedgwick's brand. Jonathan's an avid Twitter user. I follow Jonathan. I see firsthand the causes that he is passionate about and the way in which he uses his skills in digital media to raise and elevate the work of those charities. Jonathan has a master's degree in organizational communication from the University of Arkansas at Fayetteville and a Bachelor of Arts in speech communication from the University of Arkansas. We're better together, as told by Jonathan Mast.
It can be difficult to convey to others what we all do in this room, which is really getting people back to living. Let me share my story, and I think that you can see how we are better together, elevating the brand of our industry, just as David DiPaolo envisioned when he began the Comp Laude. 18 years ago, I was a 34-year-old male in pretty good health. Well, okay, I ate a few too many donuts, but pretty good health. But one day I noticed that I was exhibiting one of the 7 signs that the American Cancer Society says that indicates that you might have cancer. So I went to my doctor and he ordered that I have a colonoscopy, even though I didn't have family history. So I went in and I had my procedure on Friday. And on Monday, the doctor called me at the office and said, "Can you come in?" Well, I'm pretty sharp, and I deduced that that was not good news. So my wife and I went, and we sat across from the doctor, and he said, "Jonathan, I fell out of my chair this weekend. You do indeed have cancer." So on the Friday after I had my surgery, had returned home, and my wife's OBGYN called. We were expecting our first child. And he delivered the news that our yet unborn daughter was going to be born with Down syndrome. Now, I won't lie, it was a pretty dark weekend full of emotions. But by Tuesday, we had determined that we were going to meet this head on, and we were going to learn everything that we could about Down syndrome and make our daughter's life as good as it could be. So in the following weeks, as we begin to tell friends and colleagues, and I have a hard time getting through this part without getting emotional, Dave North, our president and CEO, sat me down and he said, "Jonathan, I don't know anything about Down syndrome, but I want you to know that we're all in at Sedgwick. And if our health care plan doesn't take care of your daughter's needs, I want you to let me know and we'll see what we can do about it." 18 years now, Sedgwick has been the presenting sponsor for the Bunny Run 5K, which is a primary fundraiser for the Down syndrome group in Memphis. And in addition, Dave has opened our corporate doors to another organization where my daughter received early intervention services. And to this day, one of our executives still serves on that board. Today, Rachel, my daughter, is a senior in high school. She takes typical classes. She's on National Honor Roll. And she was in Julius Caesar last spring in our school play, the best straight-O ever. We're visiting colleges, just like other people do, and she's excited about her future and where she's going to go. But maybe the biggest thing is Rachel has already helped shape national legislation that's changed the lives for all people with disabilities. She's the only 18-year-old, or at the time 16-year-old I know, who received a call from 2 U.S. senators, and they asked to talk to her and not mom or dad. But we are better together because our community, my colleagues, and yes, this whole industry helps support us. But let's look at our industry. 2 years ago, right here in San Diego, we were here for RIMS, and my manager noticed the large homeless population. And she said, "What can we do to make this a better place and not just come here and have a party and leave?" So we called up Alfa Project, which is a long-standing organization here in San Diego, helping the homeless and empowering them to get their lives back and become dignified and find jobs and not live on the streets. So we called them up and we said, hey, we want to bring you $10,000. And they said, come on over. So we went over and we talked to them, and they said, well, you know, we're getting ready to open a pizza shop, and we want to train the people who are living in our apartment complex job skills so that they can get a job and return to, be productive members of society and not rely on handouts. And we said, bingo, that's it. So just this past summer, we had the opportunity to come back for the grand opening of the Alfa Pizzeria. And if you live here in San Diego, I encourage you to go and eat there. Uber Eats delivers. And we bought food for everybody that came in that night. And it was a really fun celebration, but the best part was we had pizzas left over, and so we were able to take those over to the apartment complex, and we handed them out, and we had a great time. Now, will any of those people ever talk to one of us in this industry? Probably not. But you know what? Our community and those people know that we are better together. In the house today is Kids Chance. And if you don't know about Kids Chance, you need to know about Kids Chance. As an industry, we have come around this organization that provides scholarships to the children of those who are injured in the workers' compensation field or who have lost their lives. David DiPaolo was passionate about Kids Chance, and so was our friend Dwight Johnson, who's Souls for Souls I have on today, who we also lost, but his own family benefited from that with his child receiving a scholarship. And you know what? Those children, those kids are going to grow up and become doctors, lawyers, nurses, whatever it may be. And they're going to tell people, the workers' compensation industry helped me get to where I am today. And that's why we're better together as an industry. So I want to close with this last story. Nixon Tilley, who's a former Comp Laude winner and also works for Sedgwick, won the Comp Laude Award because he received a letter from an injured worker that said, I am here today because of you. No one else cared about me. You were the only person that talked to me every week. I wanted to give up and I wanted to die. And if all of us could have somebody write a letter that said, because we cared, I'm here today making the world a better place, then I think that says that we are all better together. And I believe that we are that industry, and I believe that we will be that industry, and we will be better together. Thank you.
For our fourth pillar, we move to social well-being. This narrows the focus from the community at large to our social network. So ask yourself, do you have strong relationships and love in your life? Your social well-being is strongly influenced by your close relationships and your social connections. Our next story is called There's a Hero in Everyone. And we see movie after movie where a hero wears a cape or a shield or has a superpower. Nope, heroes walk among us. No capes, no shield, but make no mistake, they unleash a superpower, and that's unconditional love. They create a connection with those they help. With her Valentine to the value of social service, it's my absolute personal and professional privilege to welcome Kerry Miller to the People's Choice stage. Kerry manages Gallagher Bassett's governmental affairs function. She's charged with tracking legislation and advocacy related to Gallagher Bassett and our clients. She is the co-author of The Way, a weekly briefing on the latest state and federal affairs affecting the risk and insurance industry. She's the co-chair of the Association of Claims Professionals. She holds a law degree from IIT, Chicago-Kent Law School, and a bachelor's degree from Northwestern University. She enjoys heath blizzards at their local DQ with her husband and her 5 children. And now to the stage, Kerry Miller, and There's a Hero in Everyone.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate being here. I want to take you back like Marcus, but not to the early 1900s. I just want to take you back to mid-August of 2014. So it's just about 5 o'clock, and I'm wide awake, and I am starving. I'm about 15 weeks pregnant, and I'm tearing through my hotel room looking for snacks. 6 a.m. could not come fast enough because that's the time when the continental breakfast starts. I open the balcony door to get some fresh air, but the humidity just blasts me in the face. After all, it is August in Orlando. I get ready, I eat some snacks, and meet my fellow volunteers downstairs. in the conference area of the One World Marriott in Orlando. I look outside, and it is still pitch black. This is my first time at the conference, and we're kind of milling about. There's a bunch of first-timers there. There's about 45 GBers and 200 others, and we're kind of talking about what to expect. We don't know. We only heard from other volunteers that have been there prior that you're going to get really sweaty, and it's going to be a lot of hard work. I'm pumped, and I'm looking forward to the day, but then morning sickness is starting to hit me, and I'm starting to think, what did I get myself into? It's August in Orlando. I left 4 kids at home to come 2 days early to a conference, and I'm missing the first day of school because I'm at the WCI Educational Conference. But the morning sickness passes, and I'm ready to go. The sun is coming up, and the buses have arrived. They're taking us to the Give Kids the World Village. This place, Give Kids the World, is a wonderful organization that gives critically ill kids and their families a week-long vacation, cost-free. After a quick 10-minute bus ride, we get to the village. The groups start breaking up into different groups to pull weeds, paint fences, do whatever the village needs, but I have to go to the office to get my assignment. I asked for an inside job because I'm having a rough time with my pregnancy, so I needed to be inside. I get my assignment, the ice cream shop. Sounds like a pretty good gig there. Little did I know, it is absolutely the best assignment in the entire village. I get trained, I prep up, I'm ready to go. It's 7:30 a.m. I don't have a lot of high hopes that we're going to be busy. I was wrong, completely wrong. First up, a family comes in their matching t-shirts. They want ice cream before they hit Disney World. They are grinning ear to ear. I'm looking. I can't tell which one is the sick child. They are all just so happy. Next group of family comes in. They're getting shakes to go. They're hitting the SeaWorld. They need shakes, stat. Another little girl comes in. She is on her tiptoes. She's looking. She's trying to check out all the different ice cream flavors. She picks cookies and cream. It is the opportunity to see how this village transforms families by giving them the opportunity to create memories was unbelievable. However, reality did set in. Another gentleman comes in all by himself. He asks for a couple of small to-go cups. He says his daughter's medication makes her nauseous and the ice cream helps. He needs them so he doesn't have to leave her later. Volunteering at Give Kids the World 3 years ago had a profound impact on me. Give Kids the World is a volunteer-based organization. Initially, I thought I was helping them. Give Kids the World, the families, but Give Kids the World showed me who is the true hero, the village. They're a hero to the families. They give them a place to stay, to create memories, sometimes final memories, to give families a sense of normalcy when normalcy is far from anyone's mind. The families, the parents and the siblings that take care of the sick kids, their family. They're trying to do everything possible to make them feel normal and to do everything possible to make them feel comfortable. The children who are critically sick, they're the heroes to everyone who meets them. They show the world what it means to truly be brave and to have resiliency to keep moving forward. But to be honest, there's a hero in everyone. I didn't initially feel like I was a hero when I was volunteering at Give Kids the World at all. But to the village and the families there, the opportunities that the volunteers give them this place to come to, just to hear everyone say, yes, we can do this for them, it's unbelievable. The volunteers are the hero to them. Give Kids the World has a special place in my heart, and I'm very thankful to our industry to have introduced me to them. It is literally the best day of my year, and I spent my birthday with them this year at Give Kids the World Village volunteering. To be a part of a small slice in a family's life when they're going through something so tremendous, it is a blessing. And the connection to folks is awesome. You just feel this sense like, I can help you in any way possible. It doesn't matter what it is, but there is a hero in everyone. Can you be a hero to someone? You never know the impact that someone will have on you when you do volunteer. Thank you.
And for the last pillar, physical well-being. Do you have good health, enough energy to do what you want to do every day? With thriving well-being, you'll look better, feel better, and live longer. So for our last story today, we're going to travel to the rugged landscape of Big Sky country, where the jagged northern Rockies and the deep valleys and the sometimes desolate beauty of the West resembles a landscape of pain and suffering following a traumatic injury. It's a great honor to welcome Becky Curtis to share with us her transformative journey in this landscape. Now, Becky sustained a serious work-related accident in the summer of 2005, where she fractured a C4 spinal vertebrae. It nearly took her life. But it's from those depths that we see Becky's mission to reach new heights and teach patients how to overcome and thrive through pain-specific coaching, through a program that she developed called Take Courage Coaching. She's an acclaimed coach and speaker, reaching audiences around the world. But despite traveling around the world, she relishes living in Montana with her husband. I'm going to take my seat and watch as Becky Curtis takes us home to close the 2017 People's Choice Award with her inspiring story called Changing the Landscape of Pain.
I'm an injured worker, and I have constant pain. Let me tell you what I'm feeling right now. I have burning nerve pain from the neck down. I have pins and needles that are going on from the neck down. I also have sharp shooting pains that come on this side of my arm and down this side of my chest, down this side of my back. I also have pain that comes with having spasticity on one side and not on the other, making walking difficult and life difficult. So when I explain this to people and they hear this, they often say things to me like, how are you even functioning with all of that going on? The answer is that I have pain, but pain doesn't have me. There is a difference between being free from pain and being pain-free. I'm not pain-free, but I am free from pain. It doesn't control me anymore. I want to just tell you that I haven't always been this functional, and you could ask my doctor. He would tell me all those phone calls to my doctor, my case manager, my adjuster, where I'm crying and telling them that I can't stand this pain one more second, and I need more pills, and I need a surgery, I need something to take away this pain. And we went through this process for quite a while where I would call and I would beg for something to take away the pain. And during this time, I wasn't sleeping at night, I wasn't functioning during the day, I wasn't being the mom I wanted to be, I wasn't being the wife I wanted to be, I wasn't able to read or concentrate or do any of the things that brought me joy in life. I spent most of my time laying in bed or in a recliner, not sleeping at night, heavily medicated, not exercising, and having a pretty miserable life. It was about this time that my doctor and my insurance company decided that it was time to send me to a functional restoration program. While I was at the functional restoration program, I discovered that all pain 100% of the time is processed in the brain, and that pain is an experience, and that I got to choose what that experience was going to be. I learned about exercise and all the things that exercise would do for my pain. I learned that what you focus on, you empower and enlarge. So what does a person who has burning nerve pain from the neck down focus on? The neck up. What's right, what's good, what's whole, what's healthy. And as we do that, we can take pain out of the driver's seat and throw that pain into the trunk. So I discovered that there is, while I was there at the pain clinic, I discovered that there's a gap in the medical system. And that gap is that there are many people that have a difficult time being able to use all the latest science, the brain and pain, in a practical way in their lives. This morning, Dr. Pearl said that there's no billing code for compassion. He's right, but I'm working on that. I have developed a telephonic coaching program specifically designed to provide the courage, motivation, and compassion necessary to help people become free from the grip of pain and regain their lives. I'd like to tell you the story of a young man. He's 30 years old. He lives in the basement of his mom's house. He's on a morphine pump. He's had 14 surgeries, including one surgery to remove his tailbone. Every surgery increases his pain. He's on so many meds that he can't function. He doesn't go, rarely goes outside of his house. He can't put a shirt on. His pain hurts him so much. He has a complete and total focus on pain. I have a real heart for people like that young man, which is why I've developed the program that I've developed. He has searched desperately for a cure, but after many failed surgeries and empty promises, he's still in his mom's basement until he got a coach. One thing I know about being in a room full of all of you, after having gone through the work, having had a work-related injury, is that I know that I'm in a room full of people that care deeply about the injured worker. Not only about the injured worker, but about their families. I love that Kids' Choice thing. But I love how you all care so deeply, but sometimes we get to this place where we don't know what to do with people that have intractable pain. I look forward to the day, and I know you do as well, when people with chronic pain, all 116 million of us, have the support, the tools, and the paradigm shift necessary to stop living as terminally ill patients. This means putting aside the cure me mentality, the constantly searching for pills, surgeries, procedures, and bed rest, and begin to live a life of meaning and purpose right where we are. Not pain-free, but free from pain. Thank you.